Night of the Living Geek.
Hello and welcome to this week's Giant Sword Podcast. I'm your party leader, Nick Lynn, and to my side are my noble and hairy are Connor White.
Greetings, hero.
Hail. And Taylor Hoyt.
Sup?
How are you guys today?
Doing just dandy. It took us a while to get on rolling, but here we are. We're back in gear, and just as
like Barrett once said, there ain't no getting off of this train. On.
That's exactly right.
That's the attitude I'm taking. We're riding this one to the bitter end.
Exactly.
It's a nice, comfy podcast today.
Yeah, this will by far be the laziest GSP today because we're sitting on the lazy boy right now. We're sitting on the love seat.
Yep. And the recliner. Nice and relaxed. It's going to be a good day. It's going to be a good day. It's been a while since we last talked. It's been last time we talked about Final Fantasy 15 being delayed, if it was going to, and of course, right after we talked about that, it was delayed. So that rumor was true. How are you feeling about this, Taylor?
How am I feeling? It's been interesting because I listen to a lot of different gaming podcasts, get a lot of different takes from people, and the whole thing has been such a crazy whirlwind. A lot of people are like, oh, this is such a bullcrap answer, because their answer was they didn't want the day one patch. Like, they didn't want people that didn't have a great internet connection to not have the day one patch, so they're just rolling it into the game, so that's why they're delaying it. And if that's the truth, then I'm fine with it. That way you don't have to sit there with a fat download and wait. You can just pop the disc in and be ready to go.
It's like crazy. It's like, why would you have a day one patch when you can just have it in the game? It's like, I don't know. Seems crazy to me, but I understand that it's complicated, like making a game and stuff like that. Like trying to get everything in order and whatnot. But it's like, why would you have a patch on the first day if that's when the game is supposed to be released complete?
It's
right.
Yeah, it's after they go gold, they fix stuff and bug fix and all that stuff.
Right, I know that, but just to have like a big content patch on the first day, that would be messed up. So I guess I'm happy because of that.
I mean, it could be worse. It could be Tony Hawk 5. I mean, literally the day one patch for Tony Hawk 5 was the game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was actually.
The disc is just for collectors.
Yeah. So, but I'm fine with it. If they're going to add stuff in and make it all polished and nice and good, and then like right after they have the delay, they released literally like an hour of just like, here's the beginning of the game. They cut the story bits out, but they just showed gameplay and some of the areas. I'm like, this looks awesome. It looks like it's running at a great frame rate. Like people were saying it looked like crap, and there were a lot of jaggies, and the frame rate was bad. I'm like, I'm kind of a stickler for when it comes to frame rates, and it didn't really bug me. So and it looked fun.
That's nice. They kind of gave us a little carrot to keep us going, if they're going to delay it.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Well, they were afraid of the Juggernaut Trails of Cold Steel too.
Yeah, that's
why they delayed it.
I'm the Juggernaut, bitch. Sorry, I haven't said that in like 6 years. So.
and I also did since we recorded last, I saw the Final Fantasy 15 movie Kingsglaive. If you guys are familiar with what that is, that's like their new CG, like high budget action movie. That's like supposedly it is. It's a prequel. It's a prequel to the game. Like literally, the movie ends with the car breaking down for the four characters, and that's right where the game starts. So it's literally
pretty cool. I like that concept. Or just like as a hyping tool and like a setup kind of thing for the plot.
Right. It was weird. Like, I'm not going to say what the spoiler is because in case people haven't seen it or don't want to say it, but there's a massive spoiler in the movie for the game. And I was like, either that doesn't matter or like they are just like, yep, deal with this big fat spoiler. So
how could you know it's a spoiler if you haven't played the game yet, though?
It's
just like it's a reveal about one of the characters that you were not expecting to know yet.
I haven't even seen the thing. I think I have a feeling I know what you're talking about, but they mentioned this in the anime as well.
Maybe it's supposed to just be like common knowledge or something.
Yeah, I mean, it must be. When leading up to the game, I'm like, I bet this is going to happen anyway. But to see it happen, I'm like, okay, I guess this is just the journey after that.
It's funny when you're talking about a spoiler, but not trying to give it away. You have to like be so cryptic.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I'm still excited. Still my most anticipated game of the year. It looks awesome, so I can't wait to dive in when we, finally get a chance to play it.
That's right.
It's gonna be a good December.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the delay doesn't mean a heck of a lot to me personally. It's like it's kind of like a shoulder shrug. Oh well, that's lame, but that's about all. I'm not sweating about it. It's like at this point we've waited so long that's like it's just a drop in the bucket of wait time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I will say one last point. I think it was really funny that they had this entire event to reveal the release date and then it got delayed. It just seems kind of silly, but here we are.
That's just kind of the nature of the beast with I don't know, games this huge, I guess.
Yeah. Big open world RPGs are hard to
I guess,
optimize.
Yeah, basically.
So, a couple episodes ago, I made sure these guys were going to play Trails of Cold Steel because they weren't, and I had to make them. And they both actually picked it up and started playing.
Well, it's like, yeah, sorry. Go on.
Yeah, exactly. So, the sequel's coming out in 2 days. It's probably out by this episode coming out, actually. But, what do you guys think about this game?
Well, Taylor, I don't know how much you've played, but I haven't gotten very far. I've made some progress. I've kind of got to know the characters. I'm past, the prelude or the prologue or whatever you want to call it. And so I'm into the game part of it, and I feel like I know all the characters. Got a feel for all their personalities and a feel for the game itself. And I have to say, not having got very far not having got very far in the game, I see why you're so crazy about it because it really is just bursting with personality like any classic JRPG must be. Mm-hmm. And the battle system is really cool too, and I can tell there's a bunch of things that are yet to be implemented in it that I haven't even found out about yet, because in the very beginning of the game when you do those first few battles, you have your guys are all super powered end game style, and so I'm doing all these crazy combos without even really knowing what's going on, and then all of a sudden you're back to level 1 and you don't have any of that stuff. So it's kind of it's cool how at the beginning it gives you a taste of oh, and this is what it's going to be like when all these guys are leveled up and kicking ass. And so that was kind of did a great job of whetting my appetite at the beginning of the game. But it was funny because at first I started playing and I was like, holy crap, I'm doing thousands of damage. What's this combo? What's all this? I was so confused. I was like, this game's complicated. And then it kind of dawned on me, I'm like, oh, right, this isn't right. This is a flash forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so for the first few minutes, I was like, am I an idiot or is this really complex right now? It's they didn't explain any of this to me.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a really great game. The dialogue seems really strong. And it's one of those games that gets you really intrigued in how the relationships between the characters are going to develop. And so that's what I look forward to the most, which is hard to do. So, I mean, I'm obviously not going to beat it before it comes out in 2 days or today or yesterday, depending on when you listen to this, but I'm definitely interested in number 2, so I'm going to keep plugging away on the first one. Eventually I'll get to the sequel.
Taylor?
Yeah, I think I've played probably quite a bit more than Connor. I want to say last time I checked I was 15, 16 hours in, so I'm in the third chapter, just kind of starting or about to start the third what they call the third field study or whatever. And so I'm kind of getting to the stuff Connor's talking about, adding the rush combo and stuff like that. The combat system's interesting, and the only thing that really bugs me is that on these field studies you're assigned specific characters. You can't pick the ones that you want, and as I'm getting a chance to play with each of them, I'm kind of ooh, this their special move would combo well with this guy, but it just you don't really have a lot of opportunities to do that.
Rips that away from you.
Yeah, you're just given these characters, which is fine because I guess it's for the story and you get to learn about each character a little by little.
Well, my RPG intuition kind of tells me that they'll make you play all these different combinations in the beginning, and then you'll get the freedom to divvy them up however you see fit a little bit later in the game. That's my guess, at least.
I'm not giving away anything.
That's what I was kind of hoping you wouldn't. So well done.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
But yeah, it's interesting. I will say, it's really just really solid. I wouldn't say it's a 10 out of 10 or amazing, but it's okay, all the characters are well written. They have depth. Each field study, you get to learn a little bit more about each character and why they are the way they are, which is cool. I love context to characters and not just they're a trope because they're a trope, but they are the way they are because of a story, their background and stuff like that.
And it's if the story's not really contrived and kind of cliche, then all the better.
Right.
Which it doesn't seem to be in this game.
No, it's you're just in a military academy trying to train and stuff like that. It's just it's like I don't like using the word simple, but it's like straightforward. Maybe is a better way to put it. Like it's not like too crazy. It's not open world. It's like here you're doing a dungeon, doing these 3 quests. You come back. You have like the free time, kind of in the vein of Persona, where you get to talk to your different classmates and get to know them. And the more you get to know them, the more useful they are in battle, which is cool.
Love that.
So it's very structured.
I would say like in all of like the fundamental categories of like how I would score a JRPG, like it pretty much scores a 10. And then in like the style and uniqueness category, it gets like a 6.5. Yeah. Which is totally fine because it gets 10s everywhere else. So like the grand total is like a, hypothetically, if like a 46.5 out of 50, I'd say. But it's like those 3.5 style points can like be draining a little bit. Just because like one thing, like when all the characters are wearing like the same uniform, like that kind of like gets a little boring to me. I understand like in the context of the game, like obviously it makes complete sense, but like when all the characters look alike except for their face, well, and even then like anime style like character illustrations, like even their faces and all that are pretty much the same. So it's like their hairstyles and their eyes and their weapons are pretty much how you tell everyone apart. So it gets a little samey in that regard, but it's nothing that like turns me off from the game. It's just like it's also kind of like a departure from what I'm used to. So obviously it's a little different for me there too.
Sure. Yeah, I will say the art style is a little basic, but it's not bad necessarily. It's just not like blowing your mind. It's not like Persona where it's got this insane style, but it's just like it
everything
works.
Looks really crisp and clean and good too. Like the graphics actually like were really like impressing me. The FMVs or the cutscenes actually look outstanding in that game. Like how it's kind of like 3D-ish where they give you that kind of anime but 3-dimensional like kind of hybrid. I don't know anything about animation, but
I know what you mean though.
It looks really good.
Yeah, the intro movie is really great.
But the in-game world stuff, it's kind of like I said, like just like a 6.5 out of 10. Totally functional and operational. But I'm excited to learn more about the battle system. But
it's super cool. Everybody gets different moves. You can kind of customize them with like I forget what it's called, the quartz, the little material type thing where you can give them spells and then it gives them stats and
one thing,
cool.
One kind of random thing I appreciated about the battle system is how they have the area of effect attacks that are like a sphere, like a targeting circle. Like in most games when you have area of effect attacks like that, you target an enemy with it and it strikes a circle around that enemy, but in this it allows you to position it manually to hit as many people as possible, like as opposed to just being like the targeting circle being anchored to a certain target. You can just place it certain moves, but it's like that is so nice, like to not be anchored to one target with an area of effect spell, because like you can a lot of times when enemies are bunched up in strange ways, like it really is not efficient at all to have to be stuck on one target for an AoE.
Totally, yeah, and there's like moves that are like they go in like a straight line, so to be able to move the line how you want is really nice. So
exactly.
I know what you mean. Yeah,
like exactly same thing. Where it's not it doesn't just snap to each target you can choose, but you just pick it manually. Tiny little touch that I love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It reminds me of Persona in a slight way when you get because you link characters in battle, right? So when they link and like somebody gets a critical hit, they can do a follow-up attack, and then obviously as you level up, you can do more follow-up attacks. I like that aspect where it kind of rewards, follow-ups, and if you spend more time with the character, then they're gonna be stronger and do better stuff. So
I haven't even got to that part yet, so that sounds juicy. But anyways, it sounds like we're both digging it. So we'll report back when we made more progress. What else you got for us, man?
All right, so you guys tend to always talk about FF8 and in a positive light. And the consensus of the internet says FF8 is terrible. I don't believe them.
Not just inferior, but terrible.
It's terrible, yeah.
Well, I don't have my finger on the pulse of old JRPG, fandom on the internet, but that sounds strange to me that it would be considered overtly bad.
Really? I mean, not really. I agree with you. I just know, like, whenever we talk about it, whenever someone talks about Final Fantasy, it's like Final Fantasy 7's great, 6 is great, 9's all right, 8 sucks, and I never got that. So I want to play devil's advocate and be the opposite side. You guys tell me why you enjoy FF8's system, like game system, battle system.
So what do we see in it that everyone else despises?
Exactly.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, well, I'll say a couple things before we start talking about why it's positive. I think one reason why people might see it in a negative light is a while ago. There's this guy named Spoony that used to be a really popular video maker on Nostalgia Critics website. That guy with the glasses, and he did this giant series about Final Fantasy VIII and why it was bad, and he just had these long videos about why it was boring and stuff like that. And I think
one kind of makes me think of like the guy who narrated like the Star Wars episode 1, 2, 3s. And he's like, "Now what is this piece of shit over here?"
Yeah, exactly.
It's like eviscerating it.
Pretty much, it's in a similar vein for sure. And I think people don't like the tedium of like drawing, because it can be kind of tedious. You have to sit there at an enemy and draw and draw and draw. But if you're willing to put up with that, the system has a lot of depth, because you can really kind of overpower yourself early in the game if you know how to. Because essentially how junctioning works is you junction magic to stats, right? Like attack, health, blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. And
well, you have a finite amount of each spells, whereas in like all other Final Fantasies, when you learn a spell, you have it forever and it costs MP. Like there's no MP in Final Fantasy VIII. Like you just have, say, like 95, max is 100 to have of the spell. So you have like 95 cures. Then you cast cure on your ally. Now you have 94 cures. But you can draw cures from enemies just like using a regular turn, the draw command. And so it's like you stock up these amounts of spells, and then you junction those to stats, and it increases those stats like basically according to what kind of spell it is. Like some of it kind of makes sense. Like a defensive stat like cure or shell will give you a lot higher stats than like an offensive spell, where if you're junctioning to like strength, you'll want to do like tornado or quake or like some kind of offensive move where like cure won't really help you with your strength. So it's like, and then there's like, you can junction elementals to your attack, like a junction 100 Firagas to your attack, and then you'll do like extra fire damage, like if an enemy's weak against fire. And it's like, so you can really like customize your characters to like every exact encounter really specifically. Or if there's a boss that casts sleep on your guys a lot and it's really screwing you up, you can go to your status defense junctions and junction 100 sleep to that, and you'll be immune to sleep. And so it's like basically,
I didn't know that. That's really neat.
Yeah. It's, and like, if you have 100 Firagas junction to your elemental attack, then when someone hits you with a fire spell, it'll heal you instead. And so it's like, if you have ingenuity, you can kind of tailor your party to deal with pretty much any threat. And it's like, kind of like you were saying, you can overpower yourself early in the game by like being diligent about drawing, getting a lot of spells, and like learning your GF's like junction abilities. So that way you can junction like a lot of magic to like your strength really early on, and then you're just kicking ass. And so it's like, it's kind of like a lot of Final Fantasy ability systems are so structured, and FF8 is kind of like the Wild West, where it's like, hey, if you can get spells, you can do crazy stuff with them, but it'll take some work. And so it's like, if you put in the time, you can do some really awesome junctioning like early in the game. And about the tedium of drawing thing that you kind of mentioned, how like the act of just drawing spells from enemies over and over is really tiresome. Mm-hmm. I think that only really applies really early in the game, because once you get, 5-6 hours into the game, you can learn abilities where you can turn cards and enemies into items that you can turn into spells. So like once I get past like the first 5 or 6 hours of the game, I almost never draw spells anymore, because you can just play cards, get cards, turn them into items, and then turn the items into spells. And it's like once you start doing that, you can get spells that are way past where you are in the game, which is kind of like, again, overpowering yourself.
That's one of those things where you really have to know how the system works. Because I remember like the last time you played 8, which was a while ago, but I remember you showing me all the things where you could take a card and turn it into an item and vice versa. I'm like, dude, this is some crazy stuff that I never did before. Like that system's got like so much hidden depth that you don't realize unless you really take the time to kind of like figure it out. And
what I really like about the card mod system that we're talking about is that it has like layers and layers of cool benefits to the game, because the card game in Final Fantasy VIII is really like a really unique thing for the time and really fun. And once you get into card modding, like turning the cards you've won into items, then like playing the card game has a whole new significance, because all of a sudden you want to play all these games because you can get new spells if you win good cards, and it's this awesome trickle down effect of like benefits from playing the card game and like just being diligent about learning your GF's abilities that turn items into magic. Like it's just like this whole labyrinth of awesome exploration you could do, and it's like materia in Final Fantasy VII and abilities from items in Final Fantasy IX just like don't really come even close to that kind of depth. Like materia by comparison is so like laughably simple. It's like you equip this item and you get a spell and it levels up like as you have it equipped. Like oh my god, that's so awesomely entertaining. Like it's kind of boring. Like junctioning is awesome and takes intelligence and like planning and diligence.
Well, I think it encourages exploring too, because like near the end of the game, like once you get the Ragnarok and stuff like that, there are these like really secluded items that have like crazy hidden, like the invisible draw points that have like Ultima
like
and Holy and stuff like that.
Dude,
like
once you get 100 Ultimas on all 3 of your characters in Final Fantasy VIII, like that's the sign of a true G, because you just equip that to your attack stat and just boom, maxed.
Yep.
And it's like like the HP junctioning. Remember, like I would have a file that's like early in disc 2 and all my guys would have 9,999 health.
Yeah.
It's like there's no better feeling than just being a straight up G like that.
Yeah, and I think that might also be, what you're talking about, why people don't like it, is because the system can be broken so easily as opposed to it being structured. But I think that's kind of the beauty of it in a way.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I think they have a beautiful system in place that kind of counteracts that, where the enemies, as opposed to other Final Fantasies, actually level up with you. Where so if you spend a bunch of time grinding and become really powerful early in the game, you'll have to accrue experience points in order to do that. And so as you level, the enemies level with you. So even if you become, hyper powerful in, say, like the first area, like around Balam Garden, those enemies will just level up on like with you. So the joke's kind of on you. And you'll still have a leg up on them because you'll have really good junctioning, but they'll be your same level. So it's like you could keep grinding to try to like break the junctioning system, but the enemies will kind of keep up with you, which I really appreciate. And plus what's nice is their loot and the items they drop scales up with what level they are, as well as the spells you can draw from them. Like say there's an enemy, you're level 5, so the enemy's level 5 too, and you can draw a fire spell from them. If you fight that enemy again when you're level 25, he'll be level 25 and he'll have a Fyra spell, which is like a step up from that. So
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
The spells that enemies have level up with them. So it's like every enemy is relevant for the whole game, basically. It's like obviously weak enemies are still weak, but it's not like they were at the beginning of the game.
Huh. Yeah.
And it's like that's so unique to have enemies level up with you in a Final Fantasy game. It's like, I don't know. I could see some people have beefs with like, the character like Squall doesn't have like a ton of like redeeming like human qualities, but I don't think that necessarily makes it a bad story. And I think he's just an angsty kid, and I think trying to dig in for some like, oh, he's the hero, he's supposed to be this or that, I think might be just like looking for something that's not necessarily there, and that could be upsetting for someone who's like wants to get really invested in the story and doesn't find a lot to like in the protagonist. But that's like a gripe I can kind of see a little bit more. But it didn't bother me.
Yeah, well, and I think also, part of the story is that, Renoa is this really outgoing character, and she kind of pulls him out of his shell.
Which is a very cute story.
Yeah. Because he's so, like you said, he's reserved, he's very quiet, he talks to himself a lot. So for this character to just, like, approach him, like, and... yeah, I don't know. It was cool.
Very heavy on the romance for a Final Fantasy, which I actually kind of appreciated. They did it pretty tastefully in that one.
Yeah, I mean, if you even think about it, like when you think of all the logos, like for the game, it's like 7 is Meteor, 9 is the Crystal, 10 is like the 2 summons, and then 8 is like them hugging.
Yeah.
So like obviously that was like a pivotal part of the story and stuff.
I just got a little chill just thinking about the story. Actually, how it's so great how Squall was so attached to like this person in his past. I won't go into detail. And they were kind of like taken away from him, and so he was always bitter and like angsty, like because of that. And then like Renoa kind of like comes into his life more or less, and like over time, kind of slowly like fills that void for him, and he becomes like really, really protective of her.
Yeah,
and I don't know, it's just a really nice story.
Dude, that moment in space, like when she's run out of air or whatever.
Oh, dude, so good.
Yeah,
me and Casey have some great stories about that, but that's another tale for another time.
But yeah, Final Fantasy VIII. Don't hate on it. Give it a try if you haven't.
Yeah.
Still a Final Fantasy, still great.
I just think the ability system is what puts it not a notch above, because I've like come to appreciate all my favorite Final Fantasies like on an equal plane. Stop trying to like throw around favorites, you know?
Right.
So I just think like the depth of the ability system kind of really eclipses that of all the other Final Fantasies around it. Even like the sphere grid, which is really deep, like really can't touch the customization and complexity of junctioning.
Do you think the complexity turns people off?
Probably, especially coming from 7. Like you said, it is so simplistic. It is so structured. And even, I think it's sandwiched between two games that are very structured. Like 9 is structured similarly in that you get abilities from items, not necessarily materia, and each character has their own class, whereas 8, you got to put more work into it, So
Right.
I think that might be part of it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I feel like people who say or who care enough about a game to like be loud about the fact that they think it's bad are the kind of people who should not be turned off at all by the difficulty of a game. Like if you're going to be on the internet like this game sucks, like I feel like you're someone who should be able to contend with that kind of complexity. Otherwise, you should probably get off the internet and learn how to play games.
Yeah, exactly.
So the complexity being a turnoff isn't really valid for me, just because it's like make a frickin' effort. Because you said like the gripe is that it's boring, and it's like if you say it's boring but you just can't figure it out, like that like kind of runs
I think
counter
you've
to
hit
each
like
other.
every note that people have, or every gripe. Yeah, the junctioning, how it's complex, the love story.
Well, I don't know. Part of why I thought it was weird people had a beef with Squall, didn't like Squall, was like, I don't know. I played that game like more or less when I was like a preteen, like when it came out. So I was kind of like angsty and hated the world too. So I was kind of like, yeah, this guy's right. Like he's telling everybody whatever, he doesn't care. I'm like, this guy's kind of cool, I was an angsty kid too when I first played that game, so it never bothered me. But if someone played it now, I could see how someone would be like, man, this guy's like kind of obnoxious.
Super obnoxious.
I've been like practically monologuing, by the way, because I've by far played it the most out of the three of us.
I like this because I haven't been talking at all this episode. I've just been like asking you questions, and you guys just been talking the entire time. I like this. It's fun.
I don't have to do anything. This is
Yeah,
great.
I think it's pretty great when we don't have to listen to you.
No.
We should do this more often.
I know. I should just like give you topics and shut up.
Yep. Well, to prevent, boring people with more Final Fantasy VIII talk, shall we move on to the next topic?
Yeah, I thought it was funny that Nick wanted to talk about that just because it's like scorching hot takes on a game that's like over a decade old. But it's like it's not fair for a game like that to kind of get a bad rap like that. And I could definitely see how like a couple smearing videos could kind of like shift the public opinion of it on it. And I think that's like a bummer. So
Yeah.
glad we could talk about it.
Exactly. It kind of fits in with our LHG ties as well, where
Yeah.
it's we give every game a chance.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Trying to keep it positive.
Well, the last thing I'll say on it is invest some time in junctioning, and you will find a wonderful world opening in front of you. Be sure to play a lot of cards, to turn enemies into cards, and learn card mods so you can turn those cards into items. And then boom, you're good.
Enough said.
Enough said. All right. So we'll go. Next, we're going to fan questions.
Okay.
Where you guys can email us at askgiantsword@gmail.com and ask us any type of questions for JRPGs or anything about JRPGs
So before got it loud and clear, dude. Before we start, I just wanted to say thanks for all the questions, because we were talking to Nick, planning out the episode today, and we're like, hey man, what are we talking about? And he goes, well, we've got fan responses A, B, C, D, and it starts showing us all this stuff that we got feedback wise for us to respond to, and that is freaking awesome. So keep it coming, guys.
Yeah, we got some great questions. So if you got anything, definitely keep sending them.
This
Appreciate
one
it.
question that somebody sent, I forget who it was, but just masterful. Hit us with it, Nick.
All right. So I'm gonna hit you with some knowledge.
No, we're
I'm
gonna
sorry.
hit you.
I'm sorry if I butcher your name, but I'm not good at speaking, as you can tell.
Yeah.
All right. First question
It's like
is
420 bong time 69 asks.
from Brian Koppelman. He says, wasn't sure if you discussed this yet on the podcast, but what are some of your favorite JRPG soundtracks of all time? Chrono Cross has been my favorite gaming soundtrack overall, and I haven't enjoyed others as much as that one. So I was curious to see if you guys agreed. or had any others in mind that really stand out above the rest.
So I will say this, just real quick, this isn't necessarily my pick, but if you like Chrono Cross and you're looking for something of a similar ilk, I check out the Xenogears soundtrack because it's made by the same composer.
Yeah, it's
and it's just good in general.
the instruments or quote unquote instruments that they use are like lower fi, you know, like they're not the same like live instruments that are in Chrono Cross, but the soul and spirit of the score is like the same. I'd say Xenogears is like a bit of a darker game, so there's like a couple like creepier tracks in there, but that always was a great thing for me. So,
But
great call on that, Taylor.
We all agree that Chrono Cross is a great soundtrack, though.
That would probably be on all our lists. Like if we were to make a list.
If we were to do a draft, that would probably go number one.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yep.
So that being said, great taste, sir. I definitely feel like any of my recommendations will be taken seriously by someone with such taste. But it also leads me to a question, like what kind of soundtracks are you looking for here? Like really the epic emotional ones or kind of the upbeat, spunky, fun, happy ones? Because I have some great suggestions for kind of like both feels.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we could do we could
do one of each. Kind
yeah,
of like a peppy one and a more serious one.
Yeah, we could
do whatever you want, man.
Nick's like, I don't care. I asked the question. My job's done.
I think this. I don't want to say it's a cop-out answer, but I think a lot of people like this one as well, and it's a modern one. I think it resembles something unique because of the composer, and I'll just say it's Ni no Kuni. And why I think it's unique is because the composer that did the music, Joe Hisaishi, also did a lot of the scores for Studio Ghibli movies like My Neighbor Totoro, Spirited Away, blah blah blah.
Dude is an absolute animal.
Oh my gosh, it's great stuff. And just a little hint to the mixing, like the layering, like the world map music in that game is amazing.
It will make you cry.
Oh yeah, absolutely, no doubt.
Like the best, happiest JRPG tears of your life. Yeah, dude, Ni no Kuni is like that could almost like go in front of Chrono Cross in like a soundtrack draft.
Yeah.
I would be surprised, but I would be like, that's a great pick.
Yeah, no, totally. Like and you want to talk about like the variety, like there's definitely a lot of like, you know, more sad tunes, but I think overall it would probably land on the cheery, peppy side of things.
Right.
Just because
but some of the serious tracks are so good.
Yeah, totally. You know, and if you look it up on YouTube, I think there's only like 20-something tracks because it's from the DS game. But if you look up specifically the PS3, like the White Witch soundtrack, they added so much more. So yeah, that would be kind of my first one. So maybe we'll let everybody say one, and then we'll come back or something like that.
Sure.
So
actually, I was thinking of one that I was thinking of as pretty like spunky, peppy kind of style. But come to think of it, some of the tracks in this game are really dark and brooding and like really serious, and also some really epic ones too. So I think it has the diversity to stand alone. I think Radiata Stories has one of the best.
I know you were going to pick that.
One of the best soundtracks ever. Well, dude, it's one of my favorite games. I mean, what am I supposed to say? And so like the soundtrack is such a huge component of like a game being my favorite that like if I put a game in my like top 5, top 10, like then its soundtrack is probably like extremely good. And so Radiata Stories, that is no exception. Obviously, I could have picked Xenogears because I could pick that for a lot of things. So I could I sing its praises quite highly too. But Radiata Stories, it's really diverse, really well-rounded soundtrack. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll feel emboldened to go on adventure. You'll feel all sorts of stuff. So yeah, check out that OST, and I think you'll dig it for sure. Thanks for the question, man.
Mm-hmm. Well, Nick, what do you got?
Right, so
you actually have to talk now.
Wake up, son.
Okay, I'm here. I have too many to talk about because I listen to this stuff all the time. But one of the ones that stick out that are not so common is the Grandia series, which I'll pick a specific game though, the Grandia 2.
Okay.
Really, really good soundtrack. The battle system is rocking. Really, it gets you like really hyped up to just do a normal battle, right? Like it's simple. It sounds like a boss battle. That's how epic it is.
Yeah.
And
it makes you want to get into the battle stance that all the characters are in.
Exactly.
Bobbing back and forth.
And the it's like a huge wide range of emotion, like from like despair and darkness to like happy and joyful, and it's just like it tugs at your emotion string, man. Just like you're just like every time, because if you play
very, very poetic.
Yeah, if you if you play the game, if you played the game, beat it, and you've listened to the music, you know like where every song is in the game, and just like it just reminds you of everything. It's great.
Right. That's such an interesting component of this, is like playing through or having played through a game whose soundtrack you love. Like each song just like dredges up all these feelings and memories, and it's like that's really when soundtrack enjoyment is at its highest, I think.
Oh, totally. Like anytime somebody plays the Gold Saucer theme, I just like can't help but smile because it's like such a fun, like happy song. Like I can't, like, honestly, I think I've said this before in the podcast or maybe on LSG, but like the thing I'm looking forward to most in the Final Fantasy VII remake is going to the Gold Saucer more than
Hell
like anything else, just to see if they added new games, just to see how happy and cheery and like fun that place is.
The submarine
like,
attack game better still be in there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, totally.
Oh, and on the having played these games before things to enjoy these soundtracks, I guess your only recourse is to play all these games we just recommended.
Yeah,
so
pretty much.
Play. One of my rules is play the game first before you listen to the soundtrack.
That's a little crazy,
No,
but I see where you're coming
I
from.
have to, like that's one of the things I have, because sometimes the song titles ruin the story. It's like this bad guy killed this main character. Like, oh come on, don't name it that.
Yeah, it's like come on.
But so Grandia 2, Grandia 1 is great, and I'm playing Grandia 3 right now, and it's also a great soundtrack. It's really interesting. They all have the same theme or same feel to it.
Dig it.
So I'm going to throw on this. I think this is going to be more on the somber, serious, but it also has a lot of like I don't know what you call like uplifting, or it makes you want to like go into battle. Some a little off the beaten path is Valkyria Chronicles.
Yeah.
Like it just has this really like sweeping orchestral, like a lot of strings, a lot of like brass instruments, like especially like the opening, like when you get to the start screen, like it has this really great opening song. It just makes you like want to get into battle, and like when you're in battle, it's got like all these really like intense tracks and stuff like that. I think it was like the first like really great JRPG on the PlayStation 3. Got overlooked, but I think in time it's had its due by getting re-released on PC and PS4 and stuff like that. So I can't really speak to the others because I only played 2 for a little. And I don't really remember the soundtrack, and I haven't played 3 at all because we never got it in English. It's only been in Japan. But
I'm hoping we get it someday.
I think it's too late, but who knows. But yeah, Valkyria Chronicles, awesome soundtrack. Totally recommend that one.
Guy who did it, who composed it, also did Final Fantasy Tactics.
Oh, really?
And Tactics Ogre and Final Tactics Advance.
Well, that guy knows what he's doing.
Snap. What about TA2?
And TA2.
Ooh.
So that's why it feels. You could hear it.
Yeah.
You hear the like how you described it, like wispy, stringy.
So good.
It's great stuff. It has a very unique feel to it. That was the first thing I noticed when I played the demo. And I was like, this sounds very Tacticsy, and I like it.
Okay, well, how about just to wrap this up? We'll give this guy plenty of ammo here. We don't want to leave him wanting. So let's both just say one more and just not explain it.
All right.
So I'm gonna say Radiant Historia, excellent soundtrack.
Indeed. Trails of Cold Steel, excellent soundtrack.
Can't argue.
Of course.
It's it has everything. Runs the gauntlet.
The Gauntlet.
The gamut.
There you go.
Yeah.
I knew what I was saying, but I said the wrong thing. All right, so let's go for the second question.
This one's really interesting. I can't wait to dig into this one.
Sorry if I butcher your name. It's Sal Urena. Sorry. Hi everyone. Do you like using guides when you play JRPGs? I'm always torn because what I love about JRPGs is finding out what the story has in store and exploring the world. However, I really hate missing out on secret sections and finding out that I won't get the best ending because I forgot to talk to a certain character at the very beginning of the game.
Okay, well, I have a short rant, so I'm going to say, Taylor, you go first. I'm going to sit here and chomp at the bit.
Yeah, see, like, I can remember as a kid playing through a lot of those JRPGs and kind of just being like, okay, this is what happens, because the guide will typically tell you what happens, but I like guides for sort of like end game, like the secret stuff he's talking about. Like I remember specifically using it a lot for Final Fantasy 12 because that game, there's a lot of content revolving around the hunts and tracking down that type of stuff. So I remember using it for that mainly.
Quick aside,
yeah.
If you play Final Fantasy 12 without a guide, you should get like a war medal. It's like such an intense game to try to play without a guide.
Well, there's this like really crazy thing at the beginning of the game, and you Rabanaster, like if you open the wrong box, you can't get the best spear in the game, which is like so random, and you'd never know that otherwise.
Such a dick move.
Yeah. But yeah, I like it either if I'm replaying or like I said, it's right before you're in the final dungeon or something like that, and yeah, right before the final dungeon, and you're just like wanting to go back and see like, okay, are there secrets? Is there anything I missed? And like I can't remember, like Connor's brother Dallas, he once dug up this thing called the Ultimate Final Fantasy VII Strategy Guide. Obviously that was like our game back then. We played it a lot, and that guide had so many more like little things you could find that weren't even in the official guide, which was pretty cool. And part of the guide too, at least for me now, why I like the guides is like the extra artwork. Like I remember I bought the collector's guide for Ni no Kuni, and it's got a lot of really awesome art, like in the very back, like it's concept art and stuff like that. Like that stuff is killer.
The Wizard's Companion is so awesome.
Oh my god, yeah, it's great. So I like it for both of those reasons. I'm trying to. I don't think I've ever played through a game and something got just straight up spoiled because I looked at a guide. But it's helpful, like especially with something like, for example, like Suikoden or Chrono Cross. If you're trying to get all the characters and you don't know how to get them all, like that type of guide is like super helpful because you're like some of that stuff you're just never gonna figure out. Like trying to get Glenn in Chrono Cross is like not obscure, but it's not exactly obvious. Like you have to get these flowers, and then you have to go to this gravesite, and then you have to give him the flowers, and you'll find him later, and it's just like, my god, like what?
And compared to the grand scheme of like some of the other characters, like Glenn is easy mode. Like that's some of the recruitment gets so insane in that game. Like trying to get Skelly, you have to get all his different pieces like scattered all around the entire game.
Yeah,
and like there's some that even put him to shame.
That's true. Yeah. So that's kind of my little bit. Do you want to add anything, Nick, before Connor goes on his mini rant?
Yeah. My rule. This is what I try to do. I have a bunch of rules. I don't. If I get the guide, I will not use it until I beat the game, because I want to get I just want to beat the game my way without being told what to do. So if I figure something out. If I figure it out myself, I feel accomplished. Like, oh man, I feel that's cool. That's a cool little thing I found out about.
I like that.
And then I beat it, and then after that, if I want to play it again and get all the secrets, I will do that, and I'll look at the guide. And I'm like, okay, let's see what I missed. And I'm like, holy crap, that's cool. That's cool. That's cool. It won't get spoiled for me anymore because I already beat the game. I know who the big bad guy is. I know what the twist is. I know your brother is the bad guy. So
yeah.
It doesn't matter. Brother's the bad guy?
Yes, he is.
No! Oh! Spoilers.
But I know you're a big like collector specifically, like even for games that maybe you don't consider or you don't feel like you're going to replay. Like, for you, what's the value of like getting those types of guys just for fun to look through type of thing?
When I was in a very collector mood, I bought a lot of strategy guides. But I try to collect strategy guides for like all the RPGs that I have that I technically own. I really own.
Yeah.
That's because that's a cool thing to have because it's like a set, It's like I got this game
right.
And then I have the strategy
like you have
guide.
an action figure with it. You already have a shrine going.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really cool. Guides are awesome if they're well made. Some guides are just awful.
Like PS1 era RPG guides can be really shitty.
Like, like for anybody that doesn't know, I think the most infamous one is Final Fantasy 9, where it was linked to this website called Play Online, where it's like, hey, here's the first half of the dungeon. To get the second half, log into Play Online. Here's your code.
And of course, now the website is defunct.
Oh yeah, so like that guide is pretty much useless.
Yeah, it's like there are some hidden items in this area. To find out about them, go to playonline.com. Oh, okay, I'll go to playonline.com. This website no longer exists. Oh, thanks, bitch.
I wonder if that's the strategy guide that I have of FF9, because there's like multiple versions of these strategy guides.
Yeah, definitely. There's usually the official, and then there's the unauthorized ones, which typically are a little better.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they've had time to sift through it.
Well, and they don't have people telling them like, "Hey, don't give away this or this or that." You know, it's like it's the more hardcore, you know, like lunatic fringe fans, and that's when
Right.
you know you're going to get the good stuff.
Absolutely. And like, you know, sometimes they have like original art that's really cool. Like I was mentioning the Final Fantasy VII Ultimate Guide. What I found really interesting is like, as it's, you know, it obviously has screenshots from the game, but then they had original artwork, like when Cloud's dressed up as a girl and then that type of thing. I just thought that was cool.
That is cool.
Totally.
The worst strategy guide ever is Grandia for PS1, which is just like pictures and words underneath. There's no map. There's nothing.
Oh,
It's
wow.
just like you go here, and I'm like, okay, how do you get there? And you go here.
Strategy guides without area maps, like you should all be killed. They're like your editors should all be rounded up and shot.
Yeah, it's otherwise it's like, what's the point of even having this?
Exactly.
I like the guys that just kind of like give you tips about the game. You know, it's like doesn't really tell you what to do. It's like we tried this. You know,
It seemed like it worked.
maybe it'll work for you. Yeah. Anyways,
So Connor,
let's go on your rant now.
okay. This thing on. All right, I've gathered you guys here today to talk about putting an end to guide shaming, because I'm one of the most hardcore like collector style RPG players of all time. That I'm here to try to erase the stigma, raise awareness for the fact that it's okay to use a guide to play through a game, especially because there are a lot of guides that have no spoilers, and you don't have to use it all the time, but in areas where there's a lot of hidden objects or things to collect or missables, like I'm not gonna miss that, like because like you were saying, Nick, like you'll use the guide on the second time you play through the game. Like even if a game is great, a lot of times that's the one time I'm playing through that game, you know, and it's like I'm gonna try to get at least 90+% completion on that first run through if I like the game. So I am not missing everything in the first and second disc because I was too proud to open a guide and educate myself about the realities of what I was trying to accomplish. So I think oftentimes people can be cheating themselves by missing out on a bunch of content that they would have missed if they didn't have help. But also, there's an important addendum to this rant that I'm not disparaging the hard work of finding everything yourself, but at the same time, I don't have a zillion hours to run around mashing the X button on every little corner and box that looks like it might have an interactable or a hidden item in it. And I also don't want to spend 3 hours every time I discover a new town talking to every single person in the town twice, and then everybody in the town twice again after that to see if anything changed from the first time I went around, just so I can make sure I didn't miss any secrets. Like at my age, with the amount of stuff that I have to do every day and stuff on my plate, like that's just not fun to me. Like I want to get all the goodies and I want to move on and I want to get the story. I guess this is like in, you know, our era of instant gratification kind of thing, but I want to absorb the plot into my brain. I want to get all the goodies and collect all the stuff to satisfy that part of my brain, and I want to do it as efficiently as I can, because otherwise I feel like I am wasting my time. And this isn't to say that I never play games without a guide, but if there's a game where I know there's a lot of hidden items or a lot of collectibles or missables, I will use that guide with no shame.
Like Final Fantasy 12.
Final Fantasy 12, I look at a guide for almost everything I do, except speaking of physical guides that are great, because I'm a big online guide guy. The Final Fantasy 12 like strategy book, it's not even a guide, it's a book.
the totem.
No, it's definitely
Tome.
it's a tome. It's a ledger status. But that strategy guide is absolutely fabulous.
Oh yeah,
it's outstanding. Like me and Casey, like it's basically operates in our lives like a Bible does in the life of someone who's Christian. Like when things get tough, when we don't have the answers, when we can't push forward to a new day, and the struggle becomes too much, we just read a couple Bible verses out of the Final Fantasy 12 strategy guide.
Totally. Yeah, I remember when I played through that game for the first time, it was pretty much the same thing. I just had that book open like at all times. Like it's kind of vital.
Like that game, I think they had to have made that game like thinking people would have the guide next to them at all times, because that's how unforgiving that game is. Like the volume of information is astronomical.
Yeah.
But I guess to wrap up, you should never feel shamed for using a guide as if you are cutting corners. You are simply being a person who wants to get the full enjoyment out of their game in a timely manner, which is something to be respected.
Exactly.
So I commend you.
One of the things that makes me think of strategy guides is the deep dungeon in Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yeah,
It's like,
Tactics,
how would you figure that out yourself?
you would never get all the hidden items in Tactics without a strategy guide.
It's like,
Ever.
I mean, the deep dungeon is literally black, a black screen,
Yeah.
and with
You're fumbling around in the dark.
Yeah.
And there's hidden items on one of each map's like 180 tiles. So, yeah, have fun exploring every single tile of the map individually, manually, or you can just look at the guide and find out where the frickin' items are. Because you did all the hard work to get there in the first place. Why should you have to get bamboozled and make you waste like an hour and a half of your time, even though you've already spent all the time getting your guys to level 60 some odd, whatever they're at, to be at the deep dungeon. So why you have to waste more time?
you've already stolen all the Genji armor. You've done the work.
Exactly. We're talking about the original Tactics, not that War of the Lions nonsense. Just kidding. I love that game.
We love every Tactics.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, great question. Thank you for asking these questions, guys.
Fabulous questions.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a question for us, please email us at askgiantsword@gmail.com.
For sure. Yeah,
We love
not
all-
just interesting questions, but very thoughtful questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good stuff.
And if you just want to ask us stuff, off air, you can do that as well. We will get back to you.
Mm-hmm.
So, guys, a nice relaxing podcast, a little shorter than usual. But
Does that wrap it up?
Yeah.
Oh.
It was fun. We had really good discussions with all of our topics.
Well,
I think.
if it's a little short, do you want to throw in a little JRPG Beginner's Handbook, or should we just save it?
Let's save it because we usually think about it for like an hour or so.
Yeah, that's true. I suppose it requires preparation.
So, thanks for watching, guys. Big changes to our social media sites, actually. Our Twitter handle is now LSG Channel instead of LSG Podcast because LSG is growing. All our social media sites are now, excluding Twitter, is now / Last Honest Gamers. It's none of the all this differentness now like before. Like Facebook is the Last Honest Gamers. YouTube is Last Honest Gamers. Everything is unified. I am so happy.
Taylor,
Nice.
Can we get a round of golf applause, please?
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it was like insane to try to remember. It was like Last Honest Gamers with like an extra S and all this weird stuff before. I'm like, okay.
I have to say, Nick, that's actually huge.
I
Well
know.
done.
I'm so happy. I was looking around
It's like the little
when I was
things,
making
you know?
it, and I was like, I could do this now. I am happy,
Mhm.
and I did it, and yeah, now we're all good.
So check us out, / Last Honest Gamers. Whoop!
Yep, on YouTube and Facebook. Twitter is LSG Channel. And if you want to support us, give us some of your monies to help us make better stuff. You
We
could
promise we will.
We will, of course. You could go to our Patreon, just at Patreon/LSG. It'll help us out a lot. We'll get better mics and a better computer that won't cut up.
I see what you did there.
That was actually pretty clever.
All right. See you guys, and see you next week.
Boogly.